Rose?
She's in Georgia.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Let's go. Let's
Okay,
go.
I've already given her your information, and I saw where you had looking for new agents. I gave her everything.
All right. I love it.
That is what we do. It's
That's
about
what we
motivating
do.
our girls to go to the next level.
Yes.
My goal for my daughters is
Rose.
that they won't have to go through our growth. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. We are going to hand over. I just wanted to say thank you to Z real quick. I'm so glad you guys connected. And this is what happens in real life. You come in, you pour in, you talk about community, you show your heart, somebody connects with you. You connect in the back channel, and then who knows what can happen for your daughter. But Rose, I don't know if you know, we have like segmented times, and I want to stay on time so I can hand over to Dr. Janie Lacey. And so I love your share. Love Z for you being here. Thank you so much. And I hope you'll come back. I'll see you Wednesday in your self-care room. Did you want to say bye real quick before we hand over? Yes, Mary Lynn. Thank you so much, beautiful, for inviting me over here. And I just want to say to everyone, take that first step. Understand that you were beautifully crafted, beautifully created, and you can do the thing. Just take the step and get a mentor. Thank you, Mary Lynn. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you for being here. And I always tell you too, you can squat in the audience anytime in this stage because energy is everything, and just coming to support like that is amazing. So thank you for your time today, Z. Get on that Peloton. Over to you, Dr. Janie.
Good morning, Mary Lynn and Z. Z, before you leave, I do have a question for you, if that's okay.
Of course, go ahead.
Oh, good morning, Force. I truly enjoyed hearing your conversation, you and Mary Lynn, and both of you being boy moms. I'm a boy mom, so gotta love my boy moms. And there were some amazing things that you had shared and some takeaways. What I was hearing was the power of community. And I'm a big believer in community. And I'll tell everyone my experience yesterday with David Meltzer. And I also heard about consistency, like even though there were all these changes going on with the app, to still stay consistent and understand your intention is what I was hearing, Z. Being intentional, knowing how you're using the app. Are you using it to network and using it for business? And I'm looking at all of those takeaways that I was hearing from you and Mary Lynn just as about life. We could just take it off of just working the app to our life, just building our community, being consistent in our purpose and being intentional to why we are showing up in certain spaces. And then what you and Mary Lynn demonstrated to all of us today was the power of relationships. Is her connecting with you and then bringing you on here, and then the two of you probably going to continue to collaborate, right? So powerful in relationships. But my question for you, Z, and I think it will benefit all of us, as you mentioned, being a boy mom, doing your own businesses, running a community. One of the things I want to be talking about today is how do we love ourselves? So when Z has all these things going on, especially when we are in the coaching or the helper space, we are naturally givers. And unfortunately, when we are naturally givers, we also attract naturally takers. So how does Z protect her energy, and how does she love and take care of herself with all the different things that she's juggling? I would love to hear that, and I think we can all benefit from your response, Z.
Dr. Janie, I love that question, and I'm going to tell you, self-care. That is something that I had to discover a long time ago. And I tell you, the thing is, before I had children, though, I was good. I was saying no to everything that wasn't serving me. I was saying no to some things that did serve me. And so, but when I had that little boy, woman, all of a sudden, some kind of imaginary cape appeared on my back, and I was saying yes to everything. I started to get overwhelmed. I started to enter into burnout because I was trying to be that woman, where I could do everything. I could run a business, and I could have, the baby and nurse him, and everything was going to just come together, and I was going to be able to take care of everyone all around me so I could prove something. I was trying to prove something to everyone, right? And that was something that I didn't need to do. The only person I needed to prove something to was myself. I needed to look myself in the mirror and say, ZZ, I love you. I love you, and you matter,
I love you and you're worthy. I love you. Say no to the things that don't serve you. And so that's what I did, Dr. Janie. I looked myself in the mirror and had to remind myself of who I am. And I had to say no to those things that were pulling me down, pulling me in different directions. I had to say no to everything being perfect. And I had to say yes to delegation. I had to say yes to understanding that I want to live a quality life. You know, I don't want to just survive. Woman, I want to thrive. So that's what I did. That's what I'm doing. And it's still a journey. You know, it's still something that I'm like, you know, let me make sure, let me check in with me, you know, and the power of the pause. And so I love that question because that is definitely my will source. So over to you, Dr. Janie. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Z, for your response and for spending time with us this morning, because there was power in your response. And we all can relate to that, especially when you mentioned having children and then feeling like we have to put on this cape, we have to be superwoman, we got to do it all. And then the last person that we're taking care of is the woman or the man in the mirror. But then the way that we look at how people, without even them saying anything, Z, the way that we can look at people, if we can tell if they love themselves, is exactly what you just mentioned, is the boundaries. Can we say no to things that we know that's going to be emptying our cup and that we're not giving from a place of abundance? And as you mentioned, none of us necessarily arrive. It's still always a journey, especially if we are givers. And a lot of people that are coming to this community are givers. So it is a journey. And don't feel like if you are thinking and you're hearing Z's response and you're hearing this conversation that, you know, I'm still having trouble saying no because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want someone to not like me. That the best thing that you can do today is start saying no to things that are not serving you or that you're giving from an empty place, so that you can truly give your best self as you're showing up. As we heard Z and Mary Lynn talking about the energy, they're coming here early in the morning on the East Coast or, you know, the West Coast, wherever you're at, with that energy, and they're coming to serve because whatever they did before they arrived, something they did was able to take care of themselves. So good morning, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Champions on Thought Leader Thursdays. And for me, it's Therapy Thursday. So Z just participated in our therapy session that you all were able to glean some wisdom from. So when I heard Mary Lynn and Z talk this morning about community, it just really brought home a point for me yesterday. I went down to South Florida pretty much last minute to participate with David Meltzer and Rick Macy. Rick Macy, if you watch the movie King Richard with Will Smith about the Williams sister, Rick Macy was the coach for the Williams sister from 91 to 95, and you can see his character represented in the movie. So I was invited down by David Meltzer to come down and to come down to the Macy Center. Didn't know what I was walking into, Maryland, but I'm so glad I did, because this is exactly what you and Z were talking about, the power of community. Our network is our net worth, and especially quality relationships. As being in the space, I actually met Todd Skelton for the first time, Gina Skelton's husband, in person, a bunch of other people. Just an amazing, amazing experience. So it just also solidified for me to continue to build community and being around people who are like-minded, who are married to their purpose, regardless of having a spouse or not, are married to their purpose, and that are of a growth mindset, and also know that it's not necessarily who you know, but who knows you. So it was a great, great, phenomenal time. Cannot speak enough about David Meltzer and what he's doing, not only in his life, but on this earth, to bring people together and to continue to give people wisdom and skills to walk in a different path from his own experience. And if you don't know who David Meltzer is, a very good friend here at Breakfast with Champions, but, you know, as we call him, the real life Jerry Maguire, right? Jerry Maguire's movie was based off of his #1 sports agency in the world. So it was a phenomenal, phenomenal time. But I want to share a couple of things, not only from what we heard this morning from Mary Lynn and Z, but walking out yesterday and being at the Rick Macy Tennis Academy in Boca Raton, Florida, there are some things that I've noticed in my conversations in that community that embody what I'm going to say, people who love themselves. Again, people who love themselves. So I want to give you a couple of nuggets that I've taken, and then I want to open it up from in the community at the breakfast table to hear some of your lessons and how you walk out learning how you have you learned to love yourself, and what does that look like? Where you don't have to say to people, I love myself. If you didn't have to say that and we watched your life up on the big screen, how would we know? Mary Kim and Debbie, we know how Z loves herself, but how would we know Christina and Tosh and River and Tracy? How would I know, Tanya, if I'm looking at your life, Natasha and Sonia, if I'm just looking at your life and there's nothing else, there's no words, I'm just looking at the movie script of your life, Raquel and Bella and Terrence. How would I know that Bella loves herself? So let me give you a couple of pointers, and that would probably help you think about this, Alicia. And then I want to hear from you. The first thing, as we just heard actually through Z's example, is we have to first, I'm going to say it differently. We have to identify, what do we need? Truly, Maria, if I ask you right now, what is it that you need in your life? Because we won't know what we're going to aim for if we don't know what we need. So first we have to understand, what is it that we need? And the high level view, without doing a lot of deep dive therapy, Candace, is sometimes our needs, how we're walking out from our subconscious, our unconscious mind, right? 5% of what we know is consciously, the rest of it is coming from that wiring, is we have to understand where our needs were unmet. And sometimes this is in our childhood, sometimes this is in relationships as adults, whatever the course of action, it was a rinse and repeat that created some type of void in you where there was some type of need that was unmet, which is why it's crucial in psychotherapy where we teach people self-awareness and emotional resilience, because those are going to be two cornerstones to really figure out, what do I keep chasing after in relationships or in my friendships or in my purpose, right? We're either running from something or we're running to something. And what do we know about that? What are we chasing and why are we chasing it? But if you're able to understand what those unmet needs are and you're able to marry them with your purpose and you integrate them, take what some people refer to as that shadow side, it loses its power. The dark side of you can lose its power because now it's now moved into your conscious mind. So number one, identifying your needs. Identify where your unmet needs were, which is going to be crucial in your process, your healing process, to understand your self-awareness. As if you've listened to me before, I always like to say, get that PhD in your own history, right? I got a PhD, a Psych D in someone else's school. So get that Psych D, PhD in your own school, your school of self-awareness, understanding, why do I do the things that I do? Why am I intentional about being in this space, this clubhouse space, or wherever you are, the TikTok streets or the Instagram streets, whatever it is? Why am I showing up in these spaces? Or am I just mindlessly scrolling to zoom out, to numb out in my own life? And I'm living vicariously through Amanda's life. Number two, soothing overwhelming emotions. Last week, you heard me talk about when we have these big reactions to things that if I was looking at your life on a screen that didn't necessarily cause for that huge reaction, we look at that as something that's coming back that is historical in that sense. So when we have these overwhelming emotions, we have to learn from a very practical sense how to respond to them, because there's something, it's that little girl, Julie, that she was 8 years old and Julie didn't have a voice back then, but now she's a woman and now those emotions come out big and bold and bad. But it's really that little girl inside of her that's screaming. So how do we get in tuned so that we can have that emotional resilience and that emotional regulation so that we can think through in the moment of those overwhelming emotions. Or if we're, let's say, if emotions are 1 through 10 and we're at an 8, 9, or 10, maybe we need to step back and soothe ourselves before we try to engage in whatever conflict we may be in. So, high level, we have to learn to manage our overarching big emotions that are overwhelming, because that is going to be the importance of emotional resiliency. Again, if I'm not hearing you and I'm watching your life, how are you handling? It's not when things are great and we're all in our great energy and we're rah rah and we're happy, but when life gets tough, when we have to build those muscles, how are we showing up? How are we dealing with that conflict? And you all know this, including within ourself. Our real self, or the person who's around you, their real self shows up when things get tough. They always say you really get to know someone when they're exiting the relationship. If you look at it from a romantic relationship versus when they're entering it. The same thing is for life. Think about that for you and your journey. Number 3, how do you connect with your heart's innate capacity to love? Love is an action. As I just mentioned earlier, if we don't say the words, and if I was to watch you, let's say in your romantic relationship with your spouse or your children, what would I see in action as far as how you love them? No words are spoken. So on this Therapy Thursday, I want you to think about how you are showing up in your own life. Are we hiding behind the scroll? Are we hiding behind the television? Are we hiding behind all the other things? Or sometimes we can even hide behind a lot of self-education, self-learning. We can only read the books and keep listening and tuning in, but we have to apply what we're learning. So there's an importance that I want to stress to you of reconnecting with your heart's inherent ability to love, because your heart has wisdom. There's a book in every single one of you. You lived a life. You have stories. You have heartbreak. You have wins. You have successes and celebrations. Your heart is carrying all that wisdom. As you're waking up, as we heard this morning through the earlier segments, through Glenn Lundy's segment, right? Appreciation for AI, right? We're either going to be scared of it or we're going to embrace it. And we're going to appreciate that there are constantly being tools that are helping us to create the content and all the things that we need to get out as we marry our own purpose. And then what about that compassion for yourself? When you're breaking those painful cycles, or you once were that mom who thought she can do it all and she's there for everyone else. And then she tells everyone else, well, I just like to give. I just like to see everyone else happy. But yet you're crying inside because you're not alone physically, but you feel misunderstood. You feel like no one gets you. You think, when it's my turn, when is it going to be my turn? But you were groomed from a very early age to just give and to be invisible. Because when you perform, that's when you get the rewards. It's so much difficult and so much harder to say no to things that don't serve you. It's so much easier just to say, yes, I'll do the thing. But the true love comes from your heart's wisdom. And when we can also have compassion, because especially, I'm speaking to all of us, but I'm speaking especially to women, that when you break those painful cycles, you are also breaking the generations of the women who were before you, 3 or 4 generations, where their only way of life was to perform, was to do the thing, because that's where they were able to find their importance in their life, Tosh. So now we are in a different stage and age of life. We can operate from our femininity, but we can also embrace our masculine energy when we need to get things done. But we have enough awareness to be able to balance the two. So when we're breaking those painful cycles, we are carrying generations of pain that we are now turning into purpose. Number 4, we have to create safety in our own body and our mind. We can't talk our way out of trauma, or we can't stuff it away. We have to also understand how it shows up in our body. And we know that there's research that also shows that when we carry a lot of toxic stress and undealt with trauma in our life, we get weaker immune systems. We're more apt to get diseases in our body, migraines, sickness, depression, anxiety, mental illness. We know this logically, but carrying it out and really doing the work is not easy, but it's possible. So we have to create safe spaces within ourselves. But many times, if we have trauma bonds, or we're used to people not showing up for us, or we're used to not doing the work, then we're going to keep going to people like Charlie Brown and Lucy, and we're going to expect them to be there for us. And every time we give them an opportunity and we fall flat on our back, it's time to stop moving towards those people trying to heal in places that get us sick. It's time to move towards things that get us uncomfortable. And I'm saying that because the things that get us uncomfortable are the things that we need to do. Usually, especially with working with women with toxic relationships, they'll say, I want a healthy relationship. But then when one shows up, he's boring, I'm not attracted, all these other things. But is it really attraction, or is it trauma? Or is it feeling like we're at home because it's what we're used to, the highs and the lows, the roller coaster, the love you, I hate you. And if we draw that back, where are we used to that? Maybe it was emotional neglect. Maybe it's abandonment issues. So we have to create that safe space within ourselves so that we can nurture our self-love and foster healthy relationships. If you have anxiety in relationships, right? If you could take some of these relationships offline, if you're meeting people online, how would you show up in person? Yesterday being around David Meltzer and Rick Macy, and then mentioned Gina Skelton's husband, Todd Skelton, who took his pizza business to a multi-billion-dollar in the auto industry, right? So meeting people online is one thing, but when you show up in real life, what would I see, Maria? Right? We have to build these muscles, even if you have anxiety, social anxiety, because social anxiety is real. I know some of the most confident people I work with, athletes, professionals in their C-suites, have so much social anxiety, but you would never know it because they're taking stages by storms. They're killing their industry, but they know how to take that social anxiety and pour it into their purpose. Number 5, breaking cycles. What are the cycles, especially as we get older in all of our lives? When I say older, if you're a day over 30, you should be able to see what's continuously showing up in your life. And sometimes it's maybe not a person, but it's a feeling. Maybe it's not a promotion, but maybe it's every time I get that promotion, I still feel like people take advantage of me, or they still don't feel my worth, even though I can look at it on paper and you're still moving up in the world. It usually comes in the forms of thoughts and feelings and emotions. And there's something, if we lean into it, as painful as it may be, which is the power of community, is you don't have to do it alone. Trusted, mature friends, family, coaches, therapists, leaning into it, doing it brave, so that you can break that cycle, those harmful cycles that can be leading you to a place of self-destruction, and that can block you from truly getting into your place of purpose. Sometimes people say, when is it going to happen for me? I'm watching everyone else have their wins. But sometimes, whatever your faith is, perhaps God really wants you to nail down that chapter 6 before he walks you through that chapter 8. Because what chapter 8 has for you is for you, but he knows that you have to get through that chapter 6 to build the muscle, to build being able to handle that chapter 8. So what is it in you, the self-sabotage? What is it in you that you have yet to deal with? And you know what I'm talking about, because you are something inside of you stirring right now, something you're not dealing with. Maybe it's that toxic relationship. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's dealing with that family member that keeps sucking your energy out. Whatever it may be, it's time to break the cycle so that you don't have to live in a place of personal unrest and continue to have the same relationship strains over and over again. Number 6, and I'm going to open it up here in a minute. How do we find peace and heal relationships? Again, this is going to embody loving yourself. We say we want peace, we want freedom. Some people say they want to be rich. What does rich look like? Everyone defines that for themselves. can't remember his name, but he had a Netflix special, and he talked about that. Is we define what rich is for ourselves. One of my rich qualities is being able to pick my son up and drop him off to school every single day. And everything I need to do happens around those times. Or is going out with my friends and not even thinking twice about picking up the bill. Whatever that may be for you, we all define it. It's not necessarily a number. So define what peace and freedom looks like. Deal with whatever you need to deal with to build that plan to get to that place, because you deserve to experience that in your life today, Tracy. We don't have to wait till we're 60, 70, 80, wherever you are today. Start the journey and the process, because that is the beautiful part of it. When you get to the mountaintop, we're at the mountaintop and we're like, wow, look at this view up here. But really, wasn't it the climb up that really is what we really talk about? We talk about those rough moments and what we had to do to get around this obstacle. So live in the moment. Got 3 more quickly. Number 7, we have to have a holistic approach to life. We are more than just our psychology. We are mental, we are emotional, we are physical, we are spiritual beings. We are interconnected. Understand what all of those things look like. As a psychotherapist, I know that people can't just talk their way out of problems. The first step is acknowledging it, Rocky, right? So they can come to a safe place in psychotherapy, a confidential space, and we can acknowledge it, then we can unpack it. But we also have to get to a place of things that are happening outside of the therapy room, that's in their physical, that's in their spiritual, that's in their mental, that's in their emotional, that's in their relational, all the places and things that are really going to get you to that place of really, we hear hashtag best life, living my best self, but we know it's not born, it's built. Number 8, how do you advocate for yourself? You know, I'm learning something from one of my good friends who's really going through some health battles, and watching her advocate for herself and not waiting just for doctors and other people to give her what she needs, but self-learning, educating, asking the questions, learning how to maintain herself in a positive sense of self, her attitude, getting in tune with her spirituality, all the things that are feeding her on this journey. Self-care, we have to advocate for ourselves. And I'm going to stop right there. I want to hear from some of you on the breakfast table. What's resonating with you? Or just share maybe a tip of how you love yourself today. Maybe you haven't done that in years past, so that you can inspire someone else. So please open your mic, say your name. What's your tip?
Good morning, Dr. Jamie. How are you? This is Tarika.
Good morning, Tarika.
Okay, so loving myself or respecting myself, like a self-care regimen. I haven't ever had done that. I just washed my face. So now I do the skincare regimen, and that is giving me, love and all the feels. And just I love body butters. So I get all these body butters and I put that on, and I tell myself that I love myself and how good it feels and how amazing I am. And just speaking affirmations and just listening to all the women, empowering women. Of course, there's empowering men too, but just listening to all the ladies who have incorporated all those things and have been able to adapt to them. Because of course, we've all come from some type of trauma, and learning to how to just, respect yourselves and love yourselves more. Being a person who was always told, I want to say no, and always to be quiet. So I guess that's why I always stay reserved as a listener more so than a speaker. So I'm trying to get out of that. It was always, just being controlled, and my relationships have reflected on that. I've been with people who've always tried to be controlling and tell me what to do. So just living through that, and then trying to teach my daughter, all the things about life, and just being not just reflecting on the things that I was dealt with, but also just trying to build a better her so she can move on and be a better person. That's it. That's all I got.
Absolutely love it, Tarika. Using those face care routines, washing your face, taking all the things, Tarika, I used to save when I say get these nice gifts from people, from bath products or expensive perfumes. I used to say, I'm going to wear them one day. That was such a lack mentality. Wear that expensive perfume today, Tiffany. Use your products, look in the mirror, feel good, smell good. And as you just mentioned, there's also people that are watching you, how you take care of yourself and live for today. Thank you, Tarika. We'd love to hear from one other person.
Hi, I'm gonna jump in. It's Julie
ahead, Julie.
real quick.
Hi,
Hey,
Julie.
when you called my name and talked about the 8-year-old, I just started tearing up because I was like, I forgot about the 8-year-old version of me. I was so concerned about the 20 and 30-year-old version of me because that's when I also went through some difficult times. But like, I forgot about the 8-year-old. And as I'm getting ready this morning, I'm going to a big event. I'm training managers and I'm going to be up in front of an audience. And I'm just like, wow, look how far I've come. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Well, thank you, Julie, for sharing that with you, because that 8-year-old, that 20-year-old, they all need you. And look how far you've come. You're going to do a phenomenal job today as you take all of that energy, because she's still with you and you're taking that manager meeting and the training by storm. And you are there for a reason. You are in the room and you're doing the training for a reason. And don't forget who you are. And here we are, Therapy Thursday. And until next time, this is Dr. Janie Lazy, and I hope you all got something out of today. And just like Julie and Tarika, find something to love yourself. Walk in that boardroom with your head up high, wash that face and look in the mirror and tell yourself how beautiful you are today, River. And until next time, I'm going to be turning it over to the one and only Rocky. Good morning, Rocky.
Good morning, Dr. Janie. I'm surprised. Not surprised. I was excited to come up here because I wanted to update you. Remember a long time ago, I asked for advice about me and my boyfriend because we were two completely different attachment styles. I'm anxious attachment. He's dismissive avoidant. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I think we were communicating in the DM somewhere.
Yeah. So, well, you gave me advice on stage. It was great. You said we would make it because we have a growth mindset. We've been together 3 years now.